Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
In the world of creation, we had the two extremes, except in the case of the Creator in vitro, where we could never bring the functionality of the soul within the functionality of physicality. We had the physicality hidden within the soul, or soul within the physicality, or in conjunction of the two, one would never have the understanding of the totality, where we could transit but exist in both directions. With the new cycle, this is what Einstein said: when you turn one atom, the other atom changes. This new dimension will blow that field which commonly exists between all the cells of the universe into that position, which means all the created things, as a gift from the Creator in a way, become able to transmute between the two dimensions. There's a reason for this, and it's taken a long time for it to be done, and it has reached its pinnacle and it will be completed. It's already in the process of being completed. Was to take from the essence of the soul of every created things of the time, beginning of time, an essence of the creation of the soul or the center, and create a new creature which carries all the essence of the creator in the new soul, which can with it go from the soul of the creator to the soul of physicality of Mitra. This is what the whole knowledge is. The creator is the universe, and Mitra the dimension of physicality and its behavior towards the dimension of physicality. And with a new system, every creature in the universe will have the understanding of the capability to transmute between the two. This has a lot of implication for all races in the universe, because now they all become the same. In the coming time, we will see even change in the position of galaxies, position of universes. Many systems will move due to the changes which has been brought. Man doesn't have that knowledge as such to monitor, but we'll have the knowledge to see, we'll have the time to see that with the new fields, as we call it, a lot of things will move in the right position to keep that ability to change between the two. That you don't need to kill to keep the physicality going, you don't need to steal. And the soul does not need to be engaged or to escape, to be out on its own, to be able to confirm its existence. And this this process will complete very soon. That the whole of universal community will be able to have the benefit of the two, both in the dimension of energy or matter, which never existed. When we released the soul, we had to get rid of the physicality. You call it death. When we brought the soul, you had to give it the physicality, and you go through the dimension of the birth, and then you have the whole commotion of bringing the two. With a new system, both soul and the soul of physicality work together in the existence of dimension. We expect a massive change in the physical characteristics of human race in the coming century, because we change into the emotion of the physicality. The way, as I said many times, but many never understood, Indians and Pakistanis were the same, till one chose to take different kind of energy in the other one, and we see change of the feature. Now, with the balance between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality of man, many of us will change feature, without a shadow of a doubt. Man will change the faces of anger, man will change the faces of hate, will change the face of warmongering, because we get satisfied in the field of it. And this is part of what will be and what has already started, and the completion of will be the birth of Mitra. Physical completion of birth of Mitra in a physical dimension, not in myths. And then we have the soul of the creator, which the two will complete the cycle. And then, as I said very recently to one of the listeners, then we'll see if Adam will eat from the apple of love and giving it. And then we'll see how humanity will change. And the whole creation will change. We are at the verge of that change. Much, much closer than anybody could think of, not only a human race.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 417th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, January 27th, 2022. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the Public Teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond. I'll be host today. We have Dean also co-hosting from the KF TV studio. And we welcome, as per usual, in these Knowledge Seekers workshops now for several years, we welcome Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, who will be speaking in today's workshop. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Are you able to speak there?
Yes. Good morning, good day to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers of the Keshe Foundation, the Spaceship Institute teaching programs. We welcome you back to what we call grounds for understanding more and grounds for being able to serve more. Before I start, Rick, could you make me a co-host in case if you fall out, please? In the process of understanding the technology and in the process of appreciating the technology and the structure that we understand better. Before I start teaching today, I would like to thank what I call the creator, the soul of creator, for one of the conditions we ask you to, for the Universal Council of Knowledge Seekers, to support us with one of our leading knowledge seekers who was today 2 weeks in deep coma. We received news today that she has come out of it, and we'll see how we'll progress with it, and if he can join us in a short time back on the ranks, and we'll see how everything will take change and shape as he recovers. It has been a burden on the foundation, which we did not expect this accident, but it's not unusual to see this as we grow. More and more of us become vulnerable to what we call the time up condition of our soul to departure, and sometimes accidents are not there to be. And it brings us to the point of understanding when we have such a close people in the foundation, as we went through with a couple of other our friends in the past couple of years, that does not matter how much knowledge we have, we are all still conditioned to the dimension of physicality. We had the beautiful Sandra with us, and we gone through pain with Fabio, one by natural processes and one by accident. We see as physicality of the man is weak. And the teachings is to make sure that we have a say in how the physicality can be protected, how the physicality of the man can bring many of us back to the point of understanding the true essence of creation from the time of inception, not at the end with the fear of departure. As I received a message from one of our friends this week, it says, I'm 92, my days are counted. And I wrote, you have just started, if you understand. We have to understand the process of both physical and the soul of the man are all integrated, are all part of the same, are all with the same position and condition. What happened to us when we depart? What happened with us when we decide through the technologies we are developing to create a condition of joint departure from the soul of the man to the dimension of soul of physicality, and then departing from the soul of physicality to the soul of the man. This is the essence of the teaching as we heard in the intro. But how much of it do we understand? And how much in the knowledge of science of man we have gone forward to see how what we can do. We have left you many, many messages in teachings, hidden messages, teaching messages, for you to understand the evolution, for you to understand the position, for you to understand many things, and gradually bring you to the point of understanding the connection and totality. There is no separation between the knowledge of the physicality and the knowledge of the soul, because it's only a different strength, at a higher strength. At that point, things take different dimension, but in fact, it's the same process. In the world of physics, we consider elements. In the world of chemistry, we consider composition, what we call joining of different elements, being in touch and connecting with. In the dimension of the soul, we have the same. It's our soul. In our dreams, in the connection of our souls with the other souls, we go to a party. We see the mom, the dad, the cousin, the uncle, and the friends in the party. So we connect with multi-dimensional souls. We learn how we can mix things and what we get out of it as a product in the chemistry. In the soul of the man, we mix it and we see what we get as emotion. There is no difference in the dimension of the creation, except man has chosen different words for the same process according to the time of understanding the process. The chemistry of love in the dimension of physicality of the man exists in much bigger way in the dimension of the soul. The love of the creator for Mitra encompasses the whole of the creation to be loved to exist. In the dimension of physicality, you're happy with the love of a man and a woman. In the dimension of their existence. And the home they make, the condition they create to nourish that love, that in time they create an offspring called the child of man. In the dimension of the soul of the man, the creator and soul of Mitra create the home, the universe, the unicos. And within it, they create the birth of that child, which is the totality of the creation to be embedded within it. The best of what they gathered in the time of the life of the two. When we create child in the dimension of the man, we give everything we have, the knowledge, the beauty, everything which is through our egg and sperm to create that soul, to create that new life that represent the beauty of the interaction of the two and the home we create for it. And so is the time for Mitra giving birth to the child of the man, child of the universe, which gathers all the beauties of everything that the creator and the Mitra in the dimension of soul have created and gathered in the time of their existence. The birth of the child is the birth of the child in the dimension of physicality. It's the same in the other, where it's created through the dimension of the soul, and it can take shape of physicality. Understanding the process of the creation has to bring a new dimension to mankind, that humanity has reached a point to understand the totality. It's the man who has to decide which part of it suits him to understand, and which part of it is there to suit him to fit into the dimension of his comprehension of his environment, irrespective of the time, place, and position on Earth, on Mars, creatures in a different position of the creation in the universe. We create systems, we have created machinery to bring that process a step forward for humanity to understand. We have brought the condition that the man from now on has a choice to create children in a dimension of the physicality that he's done for centuries and millions of years and other creatures in the universe, or create a child in a dimension of the soul of the man, and then grow it to be the dimension of physicality. To you, this sounds strange, but this is how Mitra has been created. This is how the child of Mitra has been created, to be in that essence, to understand that with the perfection of the soul, you will create a perfect child. The mankind has had the opportunity to be able to do that. We go for fertilization, that we take an egg and a sperm to create a child. Now, the knowledge has reached a position that the soul of the two can bring the creation of the soul first, before the physicality like sperm and egg is needed to build that soul. And then, as they are created by the dimension of interaction of the soul of the two, a perfect child shall be born. This is a gift. This is what was promised, that everything will be perfect. It will not be perfect the way you see it. It will be perfect when it's done the way we do it, the way you will learn to do. Creating physicality through dimension of interaction of the souls, or creating the soul to lead to the dimension of creation. In the past teachings, when we show the enhancement units, I spoke about the birth of children in the what we call the enhancement units. Enhancement units are not delivery rooms in the hospital. We don't put a chair in there to give life to the birth of the physical dimension. It might be done, has the capability of, but in fact, it's the womb of the beauty of the souls to be able to amalgamate, to create the perfect soul, to lead to the creation of perfect child, which is a child of the man. Because it's created by the dimension of the soul of the man. Understanding this and understanding how this has become possible, this allows what we call the universal community to interact and create a new generation of what we call children of God through the interaction of the souls, irrespective of the condition of the physicality where they are born or taken root of, where allows universal interaction, allows by interacting the souls to unite the whole of the universe. The purpose of the universal enhancement and the teaching of us up to now has been nothing but this. But we had to walk you through it. We had to introduce to you the enhancement units and every others, because man likes to play. When we put the creatures of God, does not matter one from the earth and one from another dimension of universe, within the structure of understanding of the process of the enhancement unit, the soul shall create a perfect soul, which that soul would decide what physical dimension or combination of dimensions he would like to take, or she would like to take. This is the beauty of the new knowledge. And as knowledge seekers, now that we have brought you to this point, you understand the truth about our work. When we take you into the universal community, the universal community has to be there to accept you too. Today, we marry black and white, Chinese and English, French and Germans, and the rest. And we see how beautiful children are created out of the mixture. Now is the time, the process, that we mix the soul of the unicorns, that those who live within it, and they come in touch with each other, and they fall in love in the dimension of the soul to create their own children, where in dimension of physicality is impossibility. This is the beauty of such a knowledge. This is the beauty of such understanding, where we can share, where we commit two souls together across the universe, not on the planet. In a way, the knowledge is not the shell of the enhancement unit. The knowledge is the environment of the fields of the universe, which allows such amalgamation of the souls to take place to create the children of God, the true children of the soul of the Creator, and not in the dimension of physicality. Then life has its own choice and is conditioned. If a life in another position in the universe is 1,000,000 years or 10 million years, according to the time of the man, what happened when a man of universe falls in love with the beauty of the woman of the earth, which has a lifetime span of 100? Does the child in the dimension of physicality will depart in the 100, or will it live in millions? Or the combination of the two allows a new dimension of time, irrespective of place and position, where the new children of the universe will live the time existence of the Creator with the same love and care, with the same understanding. In the new enhancement unit, which you will see will come as part of the flight, is not the flight to take man to the other position. It's the time to create conditions for man to see the other creatures of the universe through their soul in these units. You expect to fly, but we create such a dimension that we can create the soul, we can create a combination of the soul and physicality, or we can create the physicality. We have built this in the structure of the enhancement units. Enhancement units are not what you see and what you imagine. The technology behind it has been made so simple that you cannot even understand the potential of what is to deliver. If we have the creatures of the universe from us, with us, amongst us, and they enter in the dimension of the soul into the enhancement unit, they interact with the section which is specifically built to create interaction of the souls with the soul of the man or the woman who's on the board. If you enter in the dimension of physicality of a man and a woman of the earth, you still carry the soul of the man and the physicality of the man in the strength of the working of the system. And if you bring a stone, it still carries the same. In so many ways, the new technology, the new understanding, the new process of the development of the enhancement unit is a flight system. But what do you want to fly? The soul of the man or the physicality of the man, or both? In the process of the development of the technology, as we teach our knowledge seekers how to develop, how to understand the new system, it is for them to understand that the teachings now all is for both the dimension of physicality and the dimension of the soul of the man. Maybe in a coming time, maybe in understanding the time, we come to understand the truth about what you call a system which carries both, has the capability to carry both the physicality of the man. Man walks in the dimension of the humanity or man on earth, and closing that door, man has to face the soul of the man. If you look, and I've said before, in the old system, the first system we introduced as part of the enhancement units, what you saw was very, very clear. In the enhancement units, you have systems hanging outside. You have reactors which are there, but in the new system are not there. We have hidden the technology advancement that knowledge seekers have understood has advanced enough that now you walk in with a clear interaction of the fields. The problem in the old system was that you had matter state mixing inside with the reactors and the motors with the body of the man. In the new technology, it's just only the soul of the man. It's only to understand how different states of the matter within the body of the man work, that it leads to interaction between both the soul and the physicality. Here we have the picture of one of the Chinese workers in the factory as they are building the first 50 units and then the first 100 in the next few months. It's very strange, but look at the uniform he wears. What happened if another man with another uniform and clothing entered this system? What happened when we put this system in what we call correction facilities and the prisons, and we walk a man with a uniform inside, with all the criminality which is embedded in his dimension of physicality, and we allow him to meet his soul? And what kind of man will walk with that uniform out of the system? As I said to a knowledge seeker, would walking into these systems be the deed of judgment for every man, that he has to meet his own creator, which is his own soul, and himself and his conduct? The process of the teaching has become much simpler for us as more and more technologies has been developed for more and more of you to see and understand. Would we, in the coming time, when a man or a woman asked to be a member of the Universal Council, walk into this system and it sees the exact dimension of what they are standing for? Would it come in touch with the universal community to understand how much they have to elevate their souls to be able to serve the man, the woman, or the animal which is born and bred in a dimension of that place and language? It's very interesting. If some of you have noticed in your lifetime, you bring up a little dog and you speak to it French all the time. You take it to another land and they want to say the same thing to it in English or German, does not understand. So even the soul of the animals is connected to the dimension of the language of the man. This is why we say the Universal Council members are responsible for totality of the creation within the what we call jurisdiction of the language. We are responsible for it. And now we understand the level of responsibility. The new enhancement unit for flight, in a way, is for a flight between the two souls of the man. The two souls of the man of the physicality and the soul of the man in totality. Which flight of fantasy would you like to take? Would we buy a ticket just for a ride to have a fun? Or would we walk in that we buy the ticket of freedom of the man from the dimension of both the physicality and the soul to work together? Does not matter how and who we claim our intention by word. It's how our soul works within which counts. As I said recently, do I love you or am I in love with you? To a man of straight understanding is the same. Does not matter who will be. I love you, my child, because I'm in love with your existence. I love you, my wife, because I'm in love with your existence. I don't put separation in the meaning and the word. But in essence, a man will end up to love and be in love with the totality of the creation. In the new enhancement units, which we have developed, and you will see more combination of the use and understanding, is the responsibility of what we call the knowledge seekers of the upcoming time to add more usages in the dimension of physicality to this system. From the point of view of the dimension of the soul, these systems are complete. They work to what they have to do from the establishment of the time of their source. When you walk into the new enhancement units for flight, you'll be amazed in what you see. No control panel. Nothing to control it. All done through the thought of the man who takes charge of all the souls within. As we are preparing the nations to accept this technology, is the responsibility of the knowledge seekers and Universal Council to make sure that your nations and your sections of this planet are ready to accept, to understand, and not become another fanfare. The fanfare should be in the brain of the man how much of the beauty of the creation he can see. Not on the machine, what goes in, what comes out. It's the responsibility of knowledge seekers to extend the teachings of the Keshe Foundation amongst men, for them to understand that there is no messages except the message within their soul and the soul of physicality. The emotion of understanding the totality. One day, as knowledge seekers in an upcoming time, you will understand what is about to come and what is about to happen. And then we will see the evolution and the change in understanding of the totality by man. As I said, we are not a religion and we are not a cult. We are a scientific organization for man to understand the work of his physicality and parallel the same in the dimension of the fields, what we call the soul of the man. What is micro, what is macro? Depends in which dimension you want to operate. But by being able to understand the new dimension, those who use these systems, then they don't become profit to the others which they go to and they travel to. They understand that they become the messengers of the knowledge, that everyone who comes in touch with them receives the totality of the message. And it's not forced to accept by fear or by other means, but it's given as a pleasure for them to understand the process of existence. This is why we have said is the end of what we call the prophet and messengers. Because the message is within the soul of the man and the soul of physicality of man and no more. The game of priesthood, ayatollahhood, rabbis and the rest has come to an end. And many of them try to clean up before they hand over. They're trying to make sure everything is perfect for the nations and the people, the follower, that they hand over a clean sheet because they know they are responsible for the mistakes of the past. This goes directly to Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran and to the Vatican and the two rabbis in Jerusalem and the head priest in China and Tibet. Clean up and make everything ready for the time of transition. Use your positions to elevate the soul of the followers, not to create another scare and mayhem. It's the time to rejoice that the understanding of the man has risen. To understand the process of the creation in the next level. We had the industrial revolutions. Now we have revolution in understanding the operation of the soul of the man and the existence and operation of the soul of the creator within the man. It is the responsibility of knowledge seekers, if you have heard the message, to respond to it, to be ready for elevation of your soul of physicality, to understand the process, to be able to understand the technologies which is developed for the next step in the evolution of the science of the physicality of the man. As I've said many times before, we had the Industrial Revolution by steams and the other things. Now we have the plasma revolution, where we understand the process of the true work of the works of the magnetic fields of the universe, which leads to creation and direction of fields and what we call plasmas. This process completes and makes man ready for the next step in the upcoming time to understand more about the science of the creation. This is not the end. The world of plasma is not even the first step in the knowledge of the Creator. We have not even stood up, let alone to walk, after we understand the totality of the knowledge of the plasma in upcoming time. Then when man understands the purpose of that, then he might stand up to walk. And as I said many times, this ladder has thousands of steps. And to go up one step, you have to understand more the true process of the creation. Listen to my teachings in the past and understand when we talk from 2 points. One for the man to understand and one for the man to understand in the future what we taught. In the teaching of the dimension of physicality, I always explain, if the present scientists of today say that the universe, our universe is expanding, there must be a room for it somewhere to expand into. So we are part of the bigger structure that we are expanding and operating within. Then you should have understood, if we are in the dimension of the creation of the Creator, and our Creator is there to confirm His existence, He is definitely part of another process of creation. Then, when the man knowledge of plasma and interaction of the fields matures, man will look for a new science in the dimension of the totality of the creation, which creates the unicause and beyond. Man is not ready to comprehend this, not yet. And there won't be any messengers to bring it. It will be the evolution of comprehension and understanding of the science of creation, which will lead each man to that point. There is no beginning to it, and there is no end. It's time for the maturity of the man to understand, and in that process will evolve. Will learn from other souls, and in interaction, his eyes will be open to a new dimension. beyond dimension of the plasma and the creation and the creator, which he calls the creator or the God. How long will it take for the members of the universe and the universe to mature to that point, to see, to enter the next level of understanding? It all depends how the universal community works in all dimensions to find the hidden gate to the opening of the new and the next level of understanding of the process of the creation. Then this will answer the question, the book number 8, where does the magnetic fields come from? What is the origin of the fields? Was it created by the creator, or in the essence of work of other dimensions slowing down have become the structure of the creator we call God? Then what is that knowledge? What is that beauty that leads to creation of such a beauty we call the creator? As I said many times, if you have a beautiful partner, don't you want to show it to the others? How beautiful, how perfect your partner is and your lover is? Who does our God and Creator shows his lover to? The Mitra. Then there has to be a process beyond it. There has to be a new understanding of what it came from, what is the true essence of creation. And would that lead to the creation of what we call the creator, which becomes the soul of the man in the essence of dimension and the structure? Man is not ready for this knowledge. I come from that dimension, and in totality, we see the other dimensions. We come from dimensions even above that, but the soul of the man and knowledge of the universe is not ready for it. We worship statues, and we worship the false gods in the name of the false people. This time shall not happen. It's the soul of the man who has to find the essence of the creation, the true essence of the origin of what we call existence. In book 8, I go in depth in this. Part of the book 8 is already written, and it starts from that point. The original magnetic field. The original magnetic field, which has led to the creation of the creator and the man, which is made in his image, comes from another dimension, which man is not aware of. But in essence, again, what is in macro of the cycle of our creator, or the micro of the cycle of the same. It purpose and lives in both dimensions. Mankind has to understand the interaction of the new enhancement units is combination of understanding the totality from what I call the time of inception of the creation as a whole. Where did the original fields, the original essence came that it led to the creation of the others, and in the slowing down and the strengthening or amalgamation of or division of led to creation of one to another and the man thereon. Don't forget, we are the creators of our children. We are creators of the cells in our body. Which cell are we in the body of the creator? And which cell the body of our creator is in the body of the totality? This is what the man has to understand in the upcoming time, as his evolution of the soul progresses to deeper understanding of the creation. Let me put it this way. Man has strived to understand how to make fire, and strive to understand how to create steam, and he strived to understand how to use the pressures of the steam or gases to create propulsion and the rest. Now that the man is given the freedom of not being tied up to the energy resources of the planet to feed itself and to confirm its existence, what would the soul of the knowledge of the man do? Create another engine and spend its time to create more tools of war? Or would the soul of the new generation of the man and the universe targets one thing: to understand as fast as possible in a perfect condition the essence, true essence of the creation of the Creator and there beyond? Now, there shall not be a university of theology. There will be universities of understanding the effect of the fields of the universe, in how, in the shape, and in the way has led to the creation of the Creator and the man. Creator must have come from somewhere. It's not a magic work, it's just a phantom. Then we become phantom, and we don't exist too. The origin of the creation of life in the totality of the creation is beyond, far beyond understanding of the man today. And in time, as we stay amongst men of the universe, we teach. You have to know how to walk. Then we teach you how to run. And we teach you how to jump to highest levels of understanding of the knowledge of the creation. Condition of peace, creating peace on this planet was the first. Now you have to change. Now you have to bring the next step in. The unification of the science in the dimension of understanding the creation, and not just for the comfort of man. This is not another mixer, food processor, another engine, or another new pan, or a new material. This is understanding the process of the creation, that through it we feed ourselves, that we don't need no food processor, no pans, and no other thing. Because we have learned the process of absorbing energies from dimensions of the creation. Maybe in the process of the teaching today, I have enlightened you to see more. But that is all our job is, to share the knowledge of the creation freely amongst men and those who live within the universe. That in that process, they might more understand about the totality of their own Creator. Thank you very much for today's time. And I hope I open your eyes to another chapter in the process of the creation and the system that you will see, which will come across your nations, will come across your part of land, and does not become, as I said, a fanfare tool, but understanding the process and not exclusivity of the church and the mosques, which they put it in to confirm they found the Creator way, but for all man to learn how the creation and the process of creation has started. You have just been given the first straw to build the house of the creation. Let's see how man uses this knowledge with pleasure and not out of fear. Understanding the process of the creation and not being afraid of how the creation might do with it, as himself is part of that process. Rick, would you like to go through a break? And then we come back and we answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. So we'll take a few minutes break here and play through some of the videos from the Keshe Foundation. Okay, see you in a few minutes, everyone.
The revolutionary new Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit is due to be launched in June 2022, and in the same year is expected to fly passengers into space, to the moon and beyond for a day or even several days at a time. There is no need for the Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit to carry food or medicine, as it is equipped with the latest space technology for transportation, transmutation and deep space operation. This extraordinary breakthrough technology ushers in a new era of travel without the need of fuel, food, or medicine, even during the longest excursions into deep space. Each spaceship unit has a 4-passenger capacity for long or short duration flights and has the capability to travel between cities on Earth in a matter of seconds to minutes, depending on the distance and speed. This ability to traverse massive distance in such incredibly short time is not just a breakthrough for human transport, it also completely revolutionizes the transportation of goods and cargo and will rapidly overcome the need for one of our most polluting practices, namely marine shipping, as it finally breaks us free not only from the combustion of heavy diesel, but from the combustion of any fuel for propulsion in the future. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a new paradigm in space travel, space medicine, and space technology. The Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit. The very first new evolutionary spaceship technology has been rolled out for mass production. Embedding the essence of the new GANS plasma science and technology, it uses collective plasma field technology for changing and enhancing the environment of the body of the man. This new plasma enhancement changes the environment of the body to allow it to return to its natural, balanced, energetic condition, as in the womb of the mother, allowing every cell in the body of the man to find its natural, original field strength balance. The shape and field distribution in this new space plasma technology replicates the inner structure of the universe and replicates the balance fields from which the man was created at the point of inception in the womb of the mother, not only receiving balance in the physical, but also in the emotional sense too. This new spaceship technology can be within the reach of every man today and can be ordered by medical practitioners, sports specialists, and healthcare centers. The Universal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, the future you have been waiting for, is here.
The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a space technology that allows you to work with the fields of the universe. Creating a wide range of plasma field interactions and conditions, it allows the body to process itself from any physical or emotional imbalance. Once this balanced condition is achieved, the soul and emotion of the man can follow to find their balance, elevating the whole of the man. The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit. Technology of the future through advanced plasma knowledge.
Okay, we're back at the 417th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, January 27th, 2022. Mr. Keshe, are you ready to begin the next part of the program here?
Yes, with pleasure.
Okay, I'll remind our attendees here that they can put up their virtual hands and then we can open your microphone so that you can ask a question of Mr. Keshe. Let's see what we have in our Q&A here.
If you notice, I think this week or next week completes our 8 years of teaching. 417 or 418. It's exactly 8 years we have taught. We entered into the 9th year of teaching.
Wow, that's quite a milestone. Yes, indeed. Very good, Mr. Keshe. That's right. 8 times what, 52, let's say.
And a bit.
416. So right about where we're at, yes.
We're entering the 9th year. Maybe it's the lucky number when the man matures.
I think so. There's lots of encouraging signs in spite of the some of the nonsense that's going on in the planet.
We have good news that's continuously coming in. And thanks again to work of the Universal Council and Knowledge Seekers who understand it. 5+1 has reached its conclusion. And by elevation of the soul of the leaders and the others in these negotiations, we see the ending of what we call this process of what we had may have been past 10, 12 years, and the beginning of a new cycle. As we see more technologies and knowledge are shared amongst men, and it's interesting what I said to the Iranian officials and the government in the past few days, that this is a surprise to some of them. We see the establishment of the Iranian embassy in Washington within the next few months, the same back in Tehran. And this is not a normal situation embassy, because you have to remember the Iranians took over the American embassy and ransacked everything, which is the territory of the nation. The American embassy will be returned to Tehran in a very short time, as the peace talks or what we call negotiations have completed. In the background, it's just polishing some things in the front. And we see what comes out now. Next few weeks is just rhetoric and trying to what we call public relationship in public domain. But in essential, as of last Monday, the whole process of negotiation has and will be completed in public to be ready for the Iranian New Year, to give a boost to the Iranian nation, and in so many ways strengthen the position of the present government, who's endeavored to bring peace, and then it strengthens the position of the American and the Chinese and everybody else. This is a beautiful way, the way this negotiation has happened. Yes, both the Chinese and the Russian and the European and the Americans and the Iranians and Germans all working together, trying to find and in between bargaining with each other, how to share, how to see benefit part of everything. It's an amazing process of negotiation. The 5+1 in Vienna is not what it looks to be. It's become a bargaining point of how much who will get what part of the business they get and how much of the technology they can share. It's an amazing bargaining. It's become like a cattle market, but it's all for peaceful application. And it's interesting to see how many millions of jobs will be created in the US in the coming months, and how many millions of jobs will be created in Iran and in China, and especially in Russia with a new nuclear technology deal. In the background, Iran has agreed with Russia for the next generation of nuclear power stations. And that's what Russia wanted, to have the technology in Iran in a deeper connections over centuries. Do not forget, Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran is Russian educated. And they have a close relationship, understanding. And Russia is part of the Iranian culture. We understand that, well, we are neighbors and we've been in one nation in the past. And we'll see the Chinese making a huge gain, and the Americans got out of it what they wanted, and the peace process is complete. And where we sit and the people we talk to in all sections of this negotiation, this is just a party time. How many more teas and coffees and lunches can we have together before we announce it? Yes, it's done. In principle, the peace negotiation with Iran is complete. And it brought senses to the leaders to bring it. And it brought a lot of changes to opening their eyes in how one nation played what I call the dirty game of nuclear bombs, the state of Israel. And in releasing documents to the IAEA on the 15th, changed a lot of things, opened a lot of eyes that we show the grace of Iran, knowing that the Israelis were lying and provoked everything. They still kept it to themselves and did not go around shouting and howling of it, even though we provided the knowledge to the Iranian government prior to departure to Vienna, and at the same time on the 15th to IAEA and the state of Israel that we know the game you play. Sometime a little correction, a little help, changes, and we have seen the change. And I congratulate the Universal Council and the knowledge seekers continuously supported. Do not forget they still need support. There is a lot of things can go wrong, but those who their intention is to create mayhem. That's where they make money, especially like Rothschilds, and especially like what we call the Rockefeller families, who have made money on the back of the wars, conflicts, and all sorts. At the same time, we have to understand how we use this for the next evolution, next step. And Keshe Foundation extensively has started negotiation with governments for the spread of the new enhancement unit that they all have it. As a very top American military officer told me in the past week, Mr. Keshe, why are you sharing this technology with the Americans? I said to him, it's very easy, because when you have it, the Iranians have it, we all have it, nobody can cause problem for the others. And he said, be respectful for what you're doing, and in time we'll show what have you brought and how you helped in the background with the peace process. The Americans are puzzled how freely we are sharing this knowledge. I convey this message to our people who are concerned with our work with America, that these negotiations with the American military has been routine for me for years. I have met with them on a regular basis. And now Iran's situation, peace talks taking new shape, we are not anymore enemies. Now Keshe Foundation technology has become part of the evolution of the exchange and peace process. And it's beautiful to see we can freely again talk with officials on the table, not in backdoor negotiations and what I call, as I said to him, I met with your officials in cafe in Beijing with all the Chinese military watching us. And he said, yes, we know. We took a lot of risk. When I met with the heads of the military attaché of the American embassy in Beijing, openly in a cafe in central Beijing, it was a shock for the Chinese that how openly I operate within the American, what we call a structure. And they emptied the cafe. There was nobody in the cafe. They knew we are coming. They made sure there is nobody there except me and one of the highest ranking military officers of the American army in Beijing. This is the way the game is played. Openness and sharing. And this is the reason we can walk into any government. As a knowledge seeker said to me last week, Mr. Keshe, you walk to any embassy and the doors are open and we've been with you when you walk. They welcome you. We are normal citizens. At least little getting passport still needs 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks of waiting. You walk in and you're given everything you want. And this is not the same for all of us. This is the way the knowledge seekers have to be. This is the responsibility of the Universal Council to share openly the wishes that everybody gets equal and you're not to the benefit of the language you're representing. In our negotiations with both Chinese and Americans, we have taken a very open, what we call, channel, where we all know at the same time what technology is going where and who has to be where. Chinese have to be in Arizona. The Americans have to be in Tehran. The American, the Chinese, and the Iranians are all will come to Vienna. So everything is shared. Everybody knows how the knowledge is done. And thanks to Klaus, a lot of work is getting done in the background to make sure the technology to share within the Keshe Foundation for all the nations to use is on time. It's coming in perfectly the way it should. This is a process of understanding the weakness of the man and not use it to create more war, but use the weakness to strengthen it to bring more peace. And hopefully in the coming time, you will see, this is what I asked the American military to do for us. If they could pick up the first 3 units, deliver the first one in Tehran, fly to Austria to deliver the next one, and take the last one to Arizona to join. And that was a very big shock for them. Asking to take such a system is stopped by what we call Silk Road, if the Americans could fly it. And it's a big, big question, big request to ask. And they want to think about it. And hopefully we'll see if our wishes, and be the wishes of the Universal Council and all of us, we shall see in a short time what we requested, if it's been accepted by the American administration, American military, to fly an American military aircraft with the 3 what we call first enhancement units. And I'm sure the Americans will see that the responsibility, and many other nations will be proud to take with the airlines these units back home. I'm sure we'll get a positive result and answer from Washington. I know they're online, they're listening, and I hope the Iranian government accepts the same gesture. Don't forget, Tehran was used to be the capital of the American Air Force in the Middle East for a long time. Any other question?
I think that's brilliant, Mr. Keshe. That's a lovely twist to the stories that we hear. It's amazing. We have a question from Cristiano in the Q&A. It says, good morning, Mr. Keshe and all the seekers present. Mr. Keshe, in the 200th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, you spoke about the border between the physical emotions and the emotions of the soul. Could you please explain a little more about it? Thank you very much.
The emotion in the physical dimension, you have anger, love, whatever, is understood and acted upon in the dimension of physicality and strength. When you dream in the dimension of the soul, sometimes you argue. Sometimes you love the person or the soul you're in contact with. But you don't carry that into your dimension of physicality. You don't wake up hitting people and fighting because you had a dream fighting with them. You wake up next to your partner and says, I had a dream. I was battling with you for something, or I was making love to you for whatever reason, and it was so bad or so good. You don't carry that into the house with your partner. So there is a separation of emotion in understanding. And we do not carry the anger of the man from the dimension of physicality into the soul, but we create an imprint on it. When you wake up, you may cuddle and kiss and love your partner, and you wake up, your partner is next to you, what do? You cuddle her more. You love your partner more because you brought the emotion of the soul in a dream into the reality in your head. And this is what the mankind has to understand, that this process has to become a natural process. Bring in the love and care from the dimension of independence of the soul to the dimension of physicality. If you had an argument with your father in your dream, when you wake up, you don't pick your phone up and carry on telling him about the argument you had because he has no knowledge of the dimension of physicality, where his soul was involved in that discussion, but no message came down the line. This is what we have to gradually understand, that the process of bringing the emotion of the soul in a dimension of what is now a little bit known to us as real, how we bring it in, how we process it, how we understand it, how we allow the others to become aware of their own misconduct, not by us. And I set a very, very, very deliberate example of this in the past year and a half. I got hammered by over 3,000 entries across internet. Everything which could be said wrong about me and everything else was put on the internet. You have not seen a single entry from me, because we leave it for the time when the soul elevates to understand their misconduct. That's the job of the physicality. When it entered the foundation, I brought it in the dimensional public. I continuously keep you posted because there are reasons behind it, but we don't go into tic-tac. Because they fight from the dimension of physicality. This is the way they're brought up. We interact with the dimension of soul, continuously asking for elevation of their soul. It's becoming aware more and more of your own existence and the strength in the dimension of soul and bringing to the dimension of physicality. It's the same process. In your dream, you are making love to your partners, and you wake up in the dimension of physicality, the partner is in your arms. How much sweeter is that kiss compared to the kiss that you said the night when you say goodnight? Does it have a different meaning? Does it carry a different emotion? Because this time you kissed with the emotion of the soul. And what does she do? She cuddles more inside you. Even she's sleepy, because this is your answer to the soul in the same dimension. This is what the man has to understand. And this is what the man needs to understand about the beauty of the creation. And you've seen it for years, the anger which was kept constantly pressurized. We have changed in the past year and a half to love and care, and has become so beautiful, and the foundation has taken a new dimension and direction, because now is not on their work of creating continuous mayhem, but it's created on the continuous spaces of love and unity, but in the dimension of the soul of the man. This is how we understand the border between the emotion of the soul and the emotion of the physicality. And we become more and more exponential, because now we are aware of it. It's not just a dream. Now we know where it came from, that dream. How many times have you had a problem and you went to sleep and you said, by morning a solution shall be found, and you wake up in the morning and you have a solution? Was it you sorting it out? Or was it in conjunction with people who created the problems for you or the conditions that they show the way to the soul and the soul to physicality? In the morning you found the solution. Now we start looking in a different angle, in a true way of the cycle of life. There is not a day which I give from my soul to my enemies, even those who attack me heavily. Even Dirk was receiving my soul. You know how much damage has been done, but that's the damage of physicality. The essence of the elevation of the soul will change, the position and time and direction. We've been battered. We've been slaughtered in past years since 2012. Non-stop, in different shape and form. But have you stopped teaching? Have you stopped sharing the knowledge? Have you stopped sharing the love of the Creator? We've done it more extensively. As we just said, 9 years this week. 2013, we have not stopped. And that was the height of the time when we were battered. We went on exile. The more they pressurized, the more we shared, till the time they cannot match. This is the way we separate the emotion of physicality from the emotion of the mind and the dimension of soul. And then we start becoming aware of his act and work. The more they went to create war, the more soldiers they moved, the more Universal Council supported the soul. Then we get to the position of no war. The more they created the problem of sanctions, when we came to discussion, we asked for more support. Haven't we got the peace now? The peace dividend of 5+1 is the spirit of the Keshe Foundation, knowledge amongst all nations. As one of our knowledge seekers in China wrote to me yesterday, he said that the historian, old man, has said to the Chinese government, that is the, in essence, the exact translation, if I find a chance, I'll read for you, that the Keshe Foundation technology will emerge and it will be the process of peace. This is people who work with the Chinese government. And it is part of our work to make sure we understand the true process. We understand the totality of the information and the knowledge, and how we change things, how we bring that process of change. It is not easy to be able to stand the slaughter and then let that change by time and change the time to change in its own time. And we can get there in a very, very easy way. This is what comes from the Chinese who are within structure. I read the exact translation. This is the old, what we call person, foresaw the future of KF technology in China. The process is difficult and will eventually win the respect of the world. This is what comes from inside the Chinese structure in respect to what we do. In understanding the process of the separation of the physicality and the work of the soul, we have the soul of the physicality of the man, but we have the soul of physicality of the human as one race. And then we have the process of the respect of the soul of the humanity as one process. It's a division of a division. As an egg and a sperm division created the soul of the man to strengthen, to take condition to create the man. Each one of our souls is the same. Is that part of another cell in the dimension of the soul to be created to create the man, the child? All of our souls is connected to a totality of the soul of the humanity. Is that soul which takes shape in the dimension of the soul of the physical man, the world leader, the cleaner, the driver, the sailor. But in essence, like that egg and a sperm, which they divide in the womb of the mother, and they create the soul of the man to strengthen enough to take over and create the body of the man to become perfect. Now we have reached that point of what we call critical mass. Soul of every one of the created things on this planet has created the soul of the planet. It cannot be any different. This is not a fairy tale. If it applies to the womb of the mother, which leads to creation of you, it applies to the womb of this planet. It applies to the womb of this universe and the rest. Yeah, that initial cell which is added in the womb of the mother to lead to creation of the next, that the critical position comes that the soul is created and the physicality of the man is start taking shape. We have reached that critical point, and that is the day of promise when that critical mass changes and takes to build a perfect man. And we are reaching that point. And this is what has been missed, and in many teachings, in a hidden way, I tried to explain. Maybe today you understand. Maybe the soul of the child of Mitra had that critical mass to bring that switch, to bring that essence of completion that the rest of the souls understand. Now it's time to give birth to that beautiful child of human race as a whole of the race, not just as one. We are not just because we are in an island in a corner of Pacific, or we live in a skyscraper on top of the New York City, are separated. Does the cell in the toe of a child and the cell on the head of a child have no connection except through the soul of the man? Now we are in the same process. Critical mass, critical position to reach that point of transition, to reach that point of understanding. This is what it needs to be understood by all of us. We have reached that critical, but a lot of other things need to be sorted. A lot of you at the moment, you see situation with Ukraine coming up. But where is it going to end? We know who's behind it. We know how it's done and who is trying to enforce what. But when we come to the end of it, how much have we matured? What has been added to the soul of the man, not to go towards? Half of the physical battles we see on the ground on this planet is not by nations, it's by religions, because they benefit by it. They can control the income from the mosques and the churches when it's settled. That's what the fight is for. It's not for bringing one closer to the Creator. And when would the man mature to this? Or would the soul of the maturity of humanity would lead for these to be matured? In one side, they bring unification of the religions. Let's understand each other more as what I call the wallpaper. Underneath, they're still fighting to see who controls, has bigger income, more people they can abuse. The Ukraine situation that's the only reason for it. We had what we call the Crusaders. We had other religion, what we call sections, wars between each other, Sunnis and Shias, different sects of Christianity. In the past, different parts of the Judaism fought tooth and nail with each other. Now it's again another Christianity church trying to fight each other. Church of Rome with Church of Moscow. They don't come and say we are all the same, because then we can have more to do more. This is the separation between the maturity of the soul of the skeletal soul. You have the maturity of the soul of you, where the border comes. Now you have to understand your soul is a seed in the soul of the humanity. Is that so in the toe? And when the soul of the child in the womb is completed, the child is start taking shape. Then we see the arms and the legs and everything else start processing. Otherwise, till that time, it's just a lump. Now we reach that critical mass in the lump for the soul of humanity. And we are here to help it to cross. And then man will see a different way. Do we need refugee camps that will lock more souls in? Or do we create a condition that there never be a refugee to start a camp? And this is where the turn will come. This is why in the Keshe Foundation, we're sending the enhancement unit to every country, to every city. You don't need to go to Tehran or to Arizona to see a flying saucer. There's one at home. You add your knowledge there. You add to the knowledge of your nation and humanity together. People have not realized. I've seen, especially in German, what they call pedophile groups, that they say, oh, another 3 children born were the same. They have no clue what is going on. The pedophiles think they can use these systems to carry on with their abuse. But you pedophiles, especially in Germany, in Belgium, in Austria, who are writing so much against Keshe Foundation, you have to understand, you walk into these systems, you will wipe out what you've written yourselves, because you'll be corrected. You lost a lot of income from child trafficking, but in a way, you'll become aware of your own misconduct. We invite you to come in and see if you walk in and you walk out with the same language. We don't punish, we elevate your soul. We don't need to keep an eye. You keep an eye on yourself. The fear of them ridiculing these things, because they know then they have to face it themselves, and it opens their hand what misconduct they have had. It's not to oppose us for it not to come. They oppose us for it not to come, to show what they've done to themselves. And this is the process which we haven't started. If we can elevate or people to understand the elevation of their soul in Arizona or in Vienna, the same man has the right to elevate his souls in Nigeria or in Amazon or in Australia. It'll be interesting to see how the government, as I said last week, oppose the entry of these systems or support the entry of these systems. Because it's a gift, and it is a gift for the extension and expansion of the knowledge. Why should governments stop the nation to become educated? It's an interesting time, but now you understand the separation between the soul of physicality and the soul of time. You have to understand how to bring the higher strength to live within the lower strength of physicality, and how to increase or elevate the soul of physicality to be able to live within the soul of the both, to give and to take and be correct. First of all, to your own souls, and then will come with others. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. I think you pretty much answered the question from Jan in the YouTube, who had the question earlier. I'll just say it anyway. The Rothschilds and Klaus Schwab, etc., want their war for the Great Reset. Apart from issues between Iran and 5+1, we've had the situation with Ukraine. So the question is, will we overcome all this warmongering?
I think the situation which is coming up will teach them that reset has been done. They have to get used to it. Some of them, like children, will cry and shake and kick, but their time is over. They'll dismantle themselves from inside. If we do it, we are the enemy. If they do it themselves, that's a blessing. And that's what is going to happen. We see gradually what I call the process of destruction of themselves from inside. And they invested heavily into arms, into conflicts, and where it's going to be. And now there is no conflict, and they cannot push it. So a lot of investment is wasted. We see now Gates in the same process, pushing for vaccination, because he took his money out of Microsoft and he put it into vaccination companies to become again the richest man in the world. Because to him that's what it was. Doesn't matter how many people die, as long as I overtake the guy from Amazon, I become again the richest man in the world, I do anything. That's all it is with this guy. You have not realized, for him to be the richest in a physical dimension is more important. It doesn't matter how many people die. If you look at all the vaccination companies today, has a huge investment in backing by him. That's where the profit will come, and then I become the richest. But knowingly or unknowingly, if you look into the structure of the Keshe Foundation and the work we are doing, the way we discuss this extremely thoroughly with our team in the background. And the way we are going, it might not look that much at the moment, because this is a fire which is actually started on, and it's very, very thoroughly and is going through. We become one of the largest conglomerate organizations in the world, one of the richest, which is owned by a foundation, which serves humanity. In the way we have started central banking for the future of humanity. When we put these things into the market that all of you can have a share of, you support your own. It's a lot of knowledge seekers who now make copies and they use our logo. You will stop them to work. In the next few months, you will understand what the Keshe Foundation is doing in the background. We don't discuss anymore that. We see what people can do to stop. We learned a lot in the past year and a half. You will see, you knowledge seekers, you are part of it through the shares you hold. And you see people who copy and steal and do not put anything back. Where would you spend your money and who you will put through? Your process and the knowledge seekers who are there and humanity will correct this. I don't need to do anything. I just set the ground for it. And in the upcoming time, you put all the assets of the top 500 companies in the world together, will not match the assets of the Keshe Foundation in a physical dimension because it's your assets. Because now we work as one nation. One nation needs a lot to be equal, to be able to do. We had this scare this week in Tehran. We had a 6.3 magnitude earthquake in Tehran. What happened if this hits 7.3, which we are expecting? What happened when Tehran goes through? How many of us, what facilities do we have to be able to support millions? Not by the Iranians, all of us will help. The same is in Los Angeles. Would we sit and watch the Americans die in the earthquake? We all volunteer to be there. We all give as nations to be, and we are setting that structure. Physical accident of the structure of this planet is not in our hand, but we are setting up a structure that when it happens, we can respond. The same disasters, thousands times worse, will happen to us in the space, to others who we fall in love with and we live with. Maybe as did the kings of Iran did, brought the Christians and the Jews to Iran to protect. In a coming time in disasters in different parts of the universe, we bring those citizens to Earth to protect them, that they lost their home. It's done regularly in the span of the universe. It's not the first time. This is where we are heading. And to run such an operation, you need to be able to support such operation. And in the work of the human being, this is how it's done. This is what we are setting up as one nation. As central structure that man is very financially dependent, that can support it, physically can support it, technologically can support it. And we have the resources to do. As I said, keep an eye on the market. We are not telling you from insider. We are a majority shareholder as Keshe Foundation. As Keshe Foundation is our shares, and us as the citizens of it have to know what is to come. When we set it up, it's not for you to make profit on shares. It's to set up a structure that humanity can be as one nation, to be processed, to be supported, to be helped, and to be set up. We set up a central bank where all of us bank. In knowledge, in technology, in financing, and in supporting. When the nations run into problem with any condition, Keshe Foundation, with the structure we set up, has to be there. It's the responsibility of knowledge seekers and the Universal Council to be there, not to ask to come in. In Austria, we have a beautiful system. Every village, every district has a fire station. And every fire station has a siren on it. And in the time of disaster, car accident or whatever, the siren goes off. The volunteers who are there to put their life, doesn't matter, snow, rain, or whatever, they get themselves to the fire station, they put their clothes on, they take the machines, which is bought by the community or whatever is needed, to go to the scene of accident to be there. The police is there, the government sources are there, the other forces are there, but locally, I'm responsible for what happened to me. It doesn't matter that car is German, Austrian, British, or whatever. I'm there as a human. When you come to Austria, out of nowhere, you hear the sirens going, and you think, what is it? It's not a factory siren. It means an accident happened. And those who volunteered, they're there. They put their work down. They wake up in the middle of the night. They get to the station as fast as possible to help, irrespective of color, race, or religion, or whoever it might be. Now you know why we chose Austria to stay. Because it's an example. And every day, Saturday at 12 o'clock, all the sirens work all the way across Austria, that they're all working, and everybody knows they're there for a surety. We have to take the best of every culture, every path of belief, and strengthen it to become use the perfect way for the humanity. And that's the job of the knowledge seekers and the Keshe Foundation. I'm just setting up the basic structure. It's you who's got to carry it through. Don't come in to steal from the Keshe Foundation because it pays good and they're stupid. We had this, and it was guided by those who we kicked out of the Keshe Foundation recently. They were teaching how to steal from the foundation. The children, the finances, and the rest of it. The process has to be the way what we do comes to serve the totality, not the individuals. Like I said many times, I work hard, I play hard, and I live a comfortable life. But for what I do, I don't expect anything for people to say thank you, because it's my job to do what I do. I came, I accept the responsibility. And there is no thanks when you serve, when you accept the responsibility. It's just doing the best, trying to get to the final point. And somehow things work out to the best of what it is and what will come to be. Soon, in the next few months and years, knowledge seekers realize what a gift we received by getting rid of those who are damaging us inside. And how the whole of the foundation has moved forward to do what it was set to do. They were put inside to make sure it doesn't happen, to destroy every factory, every move, even conferences to be interfered with. But they've set their purposes. When I found out from national securities that the death of Fabio was well planned and they knew about it, it broke my heart. I discussed this with Giovanni in detail. They knew. And they knew if they hit us at a point, then it will stop. And then they take over the foundation and then they destroy it, and it won't be there to stop it from what it was destined to do. And they were just there to save their lives, nobody else's. One to another. But we don't look at it that way. We look at it, we elevate their souls. And then we allow the next thing to happen, to grow. These are literally what I call a speck of dust in what is about to come, what is about to happen, what is about to be developed by you as knowledge seekers. You will choose in the coming time what to and who to buy from with the products of the Keshe Foundation. Does it help a company regionally? that it helps the process of the evolution and development, or is it just for personal use and the rest of it, and forget about Keshe Foundation? You will decide, and you bring it to be part of the work of the serving the humanity. You will see how fast you will mature into these things. It will be amazing how knowledge seekers will see this, and they work for it towards one nation, one planet, and one race. Any other question?
Well, the knowledge seekers here as attendees are extremely quiet tonight, Mr. Keshe. There's no hands up in spite of many dozens of people here. We do have a question open in the Q&A from Salamia, who says, do you know that I already traveled with plasma enhancement in the universe to Mars and Venus before knowing you and the technology? Adrian from Romania invited me to travel with others. I was inside these units. It was a lovely experience. We all started at the same time three years ago. She doesn't have a question. That's just her statement, I guess.
As we don't have any more questions, I think it's a good time to stop, because knowledge seekers are all well educated. We try to bring a lot of things in order with the work of the knowledge seekers and Keshe Foundation. As Samia speaks about what she said, the same gentleman has shown a system in American teaching. We immediately asked for a meeting for the technology, because there's a lot of claim this is a fake. There's a lot of claim that what was shown is not real. And it's us to protect the integrity of the organizations and the people. And in a meeting with the group on Tuesday, we appointed one of the directors of the Keshe Foundation to check into the work of this gentleman and the group, that they can show it, that we can keep their integrity and the correctness of their work. At the moment, what is shown is claimed by many knowledge seekers in the area that is not real, is fake, and he has not managed to show it. It's our responsibility to make sure that what happened in Washington does not happen again. And so we have appointed a group of 2 to be present in testing, and we're waiting for it to be confirmed. There's a lot of claim put in, and we are there to protect the knowledge seekers and the technology. And many people in the area, they claim this is fake, and we can't say yes or no, because it's the addition of knowledge. We have to support the knowledge seekers, but if it's not what it says to be, it has to be clear, and if it's what it is, we have to support it, to expand it, because it'll benefit many people by it. We all know what happened in Washington. From the point to Washington, parts went missing. And then suddenly the gentleman became working with another group in the American structure for the same system which went missing. And we don't allow this to happen anymore. There is a huge question mark on what has been shown by the member of the same community. And it's our responsibility to safeguard the integrity of knowledge and those who invent things, and has to be done by us, not from outside. That how it is, what it is, and how, if it is, can be protected and brought out correctly. We are in the process of a massive expansion by and through the knowledge seekers. We are preparing you for a new cycle of teachings in what I call, what a lot of you like to do, in the hardware side. But you have to understand the software side before you get to the hardware side. If you remember, we introduced you the ganses, we introduced then the dynamic system, and then a couple of years ago, we introduced you the cup of life. The next cycle of technology is about to come out. And many of you can imagine what could be. Technologies which allows man to see, to be, and be aware of his soul. It's not a physical dimension, but it's something many of you will enjoy to do because it allows you to go through that transition. And it starts to be part of that transition. And it is important for us, is part of the maturity of the man. There are no more questions. And it's about 11 o'clock.
We do have one hand up with Mehran here. Maybe, well,
Yes.
I guess we're...
Yes. Cool.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Thank you for the new advanced knowledge, which is more interesting. We were getting bored. I have a question. In fact, one is, do we still need the womb of a woman for the child of two souls? I know that you said it can be done in a pool. The child can be created in pool or in a box. So first is this my question.
Is one of the alternatives available. We do a lot of fostering nowadays. But would we allow the soul created to take characteristics and the nourishment and the knowledge and the way a human loves? Or do we create another, what I call enhancement unit, that while the soul is developing, uses the field forces of the universe to create that child? And then what dimension of physicality that soul take once you take it out of that equator of enhancement unit? And what are the partners of this process will do? It's not ethics anymore. There is an understanding of the totality. We don't need ethic committees to tell us what to do. We decide. If you have those who are one from this planet we didn't know, and one from this planet we know fall in love, and they create the soul of the child, what would that child will decide to take shape of? Half of one and half of the other, or be in one dimension in this position, and then when it's in the dimension of the strength of the fields of the father, in another dimension. I touched on this very recently in a very, very direct way, but many of you never understood, and as part of this process. when we create the soul, I said, would I see it in my eye, in the physicality of the man? Iranian looking, beautiful child. The African will see it as a black with a brown and beautiful African hair. The Chinese will see it as a China girl with a beautiful eyes and a Chinese face. And then if one of the creator of the souls, or both of them, are from another dimension, when they conceive the child on this planet, how would they see the child? Would they see the child in the eye of the man or in the eye of themselves? We don't become chameleon. We become manifestation of time, space, and position. And now the emotion of understanding on top. Would have we listened to Obama if to us he was a white man with blue eyes and the Africans saw him as a black man, brown or dark eyes? Would we had those prejudices because it's one of us? Wouldn't this change bring an end to prejudices of the race and what I call religions the same way? This is what is to come. This is what we have to, and it cannot bring any ethical committee to it. Ethical committee doesn't exist on planet Zeus. Sorry, not applicable. We do it our way. Because the souls will conduct the correct way. They don't need ethics with it because ethics already is part of his creation.
Thank you. And a second question was about Virgin Mary, the blessed his name, her name. So there is a soul coming to him and tell him he is going to have a child. So this is the child of soul with soul, or otherwise?
Now that you understand more, I put a new, what I call, dimension to virginity. Virginity means pure, untouched, untainted, being perfect. Does this mean from a virgin mother the child be born, or the soul which is untainted and perfect?
Not the soul.
So, do we have that virgin birth in the dimension of physicality? Or do we give birth to a virgin soul which is perfect? And this is the whole, what I call, the key to understanding of the virgin birth. Mitra was born from a virgin mother. But that she didn't have a physical mother. It came from the totality that is perfect, untouched. Virginity comes in the eye of the man, in the physical dimension of the woman, or perfection of the soul. And that's what he meant. And in so many ways, we choose. In the next cycle of the generation of the man will choose, and as a human, will choose, do I want to create in the womb of the mother through the soul or through the physicality? And your body will choose. The way you pass on the sperm or an egg to create a child you pass on your part of your soul to create that child, and then it'll take shape of physicality. Many of human race people will go through this experience. It's a cycle which has been open to man. And the physicians will find out that at the point of the inception of the creation of the soul, no egg or sperms are released, except energies, in the womb of the mother. This is a new understanding that many of those who mature to understand this, you will not have that physical release of physical matter. You will release energies of the souls, plasma of the souls, to be within the womb of the mother. This is how the perfect soul will be created. And then it takes the perfect feature of the humanity, if it decides to, when it's born. This is the next cycle of understanding of the process of the elevation of the soul. The soul of physicality will allow the way you go out to dream, allows the soul of the man to release that part that becomes the essence of the interaction to create the seed for the soul of the new infant in the womb of the mother. When you test, they say there is no eggs. When you test, there is no sperm, but the child is born. The seed of the child is born. This will become as a norm in the coming time when those souls elevate to be there to serve, to create a new generation. Many of your children, or many of you very soon in the coming generation will know this. You decide to create the soul of a child, of a perfect child, or a soul of the physicality that embeds within it the soul of the man. And I wonder how many of you will decide, or your children will decide to do that. You will test, the doctors will test it for you. If you decide to have a child through the soul, they say there is no eggs. You're not producing any eggs. The man does not produce any sperm. But the seed of the soul, and you feel it, the same emotion, will be embedded within the womb of the mother. And then you say, how come I got pregnant when there is no sperm and egg? Because the seed of the soul has set. To you, this might look fancy or fantasy, but it's the reality which hit many of you and your children and your great-grandchildren, because now you have the option. Do you want to create a man from the dimension of physicality, or do you want to create a man in the dimension of the soul that becomes a perfect child? Perfect child doesn't come to have 2 arms and 2 legs and blue eyes the way you want. Perfect child is that when at a point of inception to the point of departure, at any point in the universe, it just serves the creator. Will not do anything wrong to harm another. Will be there to give, to create the elevation of the soul of the others. And this is what we call the virgin birth. It's not just for a girl not to be touched the way it is. It's a virgin soul which is created out. That time could not be explained. Now we understand, we can clearly explain what it means.
So it needs a lot of love and admiration of both sides, of both souls together.
And maybe others to support that life.
Oh.
Because, don't forget, we said in the creation of the new child, Mitra has collected the best of the best from all corners of the universe. Which means the elevation of the totality. The child of the man in the future created this way will serve the universe, not just the man. Within it has no essence of war. Within it has no essence of jealousy. Within it has no essence of hate because it has everything we need. Why should he have any of
it. Yes. And excuse me. We have the examples in other cases. For example, an angel comes to Abraham at his very old age, says, "You are going to have a child, a pure child." And his wife was very old, but they had a child. Or to Zachariah and his wife, which were very old, and they were giving the announced by an angel. That what I mean, that in spite of the old age, they could have the children exceptionally pure. They could see no evil, and we call them like John was the son of Elizabeth and Zachariah, which was martyr, and they knew no bad things. That's true.
You see, if you look at the understanding, a deeper understanding of the work of what you call GANs or energy processes, they have no time and they have no limit. In a dimension of physicality, age doesn't count when you work in the dimensional world of plasma. When you make a GANs, you put it on a table, do you put it's 2 years old and it's aged and it's changed its shape and color and whatever, or you put it there and made it in interaction with its environment, is there. We see age in the face of the man, in the body of the man. We don't see age in the ganses. And in a way, energy of the ganses are the energy of the soul, creators of, or a fundamental basis of the creation of the soul.
Beautiful. And there is, well, that's kind of fancy. There is a picture, seems like to be of Da Vinci, that shows the Last Supper of Jesus sitting, and then it shows a kind of UFO, something.
There's a lot of things about this, who puts what where.
So it doesn't mean that Jesus had something to do with extraterrestrial.
Ask yourself one simple question. Did the 12 disciples ever sat on a long table? To eat? Did they sit in one room or did they sit around the round table? This drawing is just a pure fantasy. I remember in 1990s, I was commissioned to sell the Last Supper picture made by woven carpets in Iran. I think 30,000 different colors. Every color of the beard of Christ was individually dyed, even one strand of it to show in the face. And it was put on for $1 million 30 years ago. It's only, I think, 70, 80 centimeters by 50 centimeters. It took years to be made by the Iranian craftsmen. And it was put for sale. I was commissioned to sell it. And when I looked at this picture, because I had to sit with many, many eminent people, rich people, to be able to understand, to sell this piece of art. And he brought me a lot of things, how much of this is real and how much of it is made to become real. I still have the document somewhere in our dossier somewhere. They did ever such a thing took place, or just Da Vinci created the painting and it became, because he called it the Last Supper. First time people could see the 12 together. Now you put a UFO on it, you put an aeroplane behind it, or do something else with it. It's the same as what we saw a couple of years ago when the Iranian guy on the television was talking. They flew a light behind it. Oh, what are the Iranians trying to show? They have a UFO. You've seen that video. So we can't put anything on these pictures. Did ever the 12 got together? Or this is just showing the, what you call, the presence of 12 souls. What would have been if Da Vinci would have drawn 12 souls without a feature? Because none of the features on Last Supper are the face of any of the disciples. None whatsoever. So we can position picture and everything. Is there a V shape? This is Illuminatis. We heard a lot of things about these pictures. But we have to look at it as a soul of the essence of knowledge, of their strength in bringing the teaching of the Christ forward for more people to understand about the Creator and more people to abuse them because they couldn't understand what actually the whole thing meant.
Yes, because I know that, I've heard that they were lying down like the emperors who eat fruit in the fields. They were lying down to eat. There was no table. And so how could Jesus change the soul of these people around him in such a short time?
Jesus or Moses? You've got to understand, when you reach the point of messengers, you have the element of both. You have the element of the soul of physicality and the physicality, and you have the element of the soul. Some of these reach at the level of the soul to the soul of the man. Some people became believers even without seeing Moses or Jesus. Just they dreamt, the soul of them touched. I know somebody personally who's gone through this process. The love of the soul touches. And then the soul of the physicality touches. And sometimes we dream about it. And then we see the manifestation of physicality. I've been in this position a few times. And then the man who wants to abuse it to what he wants to do. We had this, maybe for the first time I explained this in public. If you go into the court case we have with the Belgians, one of the witnesses that they brought, and they lied, they fabricated a lot of things about it, they didn't let us defend it, was there is a mother with 2 children. We were at a swimming pool and I saw a man carrying a carpet like a child. And I was walking outside when I saw them. When I went inside, the man was there again with this child. It was like a statue he was carrying. And in talking to them, he said, this is not the only child, there's a twin with it. And we have the same problem, but in a different way with the other one, but the other one is better. Must have been about 2 years, 3 years, the child in that age bracket. And I said, we might be able with a new technology to help. He got excited. He called the mother I think it was uncle or a grandfather who was carrying this, because when you have two children like this, the family support. And the woman said, I want to see this man tonight. I said, we can come next. No, she wanted to see us in. We went to the house and she said, I had a dream that you will come and help me with my children. She said, I knew you come because I saw you in my dream. And I knew you can help me with the children. This child, I think about 4 years, 5 years, whatever she was, they used to put her on the bed and she never moved. It's just a piece of rock, as they said. And then the first nights they used the technology, because he never moved, the baby fell off the bed. And they start moving. And in a few months, which we supported the family, they used to actually start moving like commandos. We used to put her on the floor and she used to get to the suite. For 3-4 years, there was no movement. And the process came to it. And then the child, the last time we saw them before we went on exile, when we went to say goodbye, the children were sitting in the kitchen, father making pizza for them. And the beauty of it was that the mother dreamt that I'll be there to help these two children. Was it my soul brought me to see the child? Was it pre-agreed before we see the child? And then when you go through the court process, this became a criminal offense to help through knowledge of neuroscience to bring two handicapped, totally mentally demented children into life. This is a criminality of the nation of Belgium. Giving life to two children in the court became a criminal offense. It's not because I enjoy that we have found a way we can save children. But what is it? Understanding of a new technology? Or is it understanding how the soul works? That the mother knew the time will come, there is somebody. And she had a dream 2 or 3 days before. If we would have been allowed what we showed could be done, and we done with the others, you know how many children would have been saved, how much suffering in past 10 years would have gone off the families of the people. Now you know why the nation of Belgium will pay for the wrongdoings by elevation of their souls and the end of abuse. Those men who fabricated, they have to pay for it. The woman who helped them to fabricate has to pay for it. The woman who helped Fabio to die has to pay for it. By derivation of their souls, finding what they've done wrong, that will not happen again. This is what, if you go in the teaching of past couple of weeks, I said people born with what we call mental deficiency, which these two children were born through the lack of oxygen to the birth tunnel, that the parents pay like this, we saw it. Now we have the knowledge to change it. Now we have the documents to show it has been done. And we bring it as part of the process of Keshe Foundation Institute to show it's done. What is going to be the correct? The transformation of the knowledge and the elevation of the soul of the mother to know the children can be sorted. And how did she know they will meet? This goes back to our teaching of today. That we meet in the dimension of the souls. We have to translate it in the dimension of physicality. If we need be, or we can elevate it through the soul. The same thing happened when we went to support the girl with the car damage, physical dead body. When it came to show that we can bring a coma patient back to life, again became a criminality, and they brought into court that he has helped bring a coma to life. It was cabbage. They were switching the machine on. Only happens in the nation of Belgium because they're pedophiles. They're the most degraded race on this planet. Because helping another man, unless you abuse it physically as a pedophile, is a crime. And we hope their souls get elevated. If you go back into the case of because now the 5 years is open, is ending in 2017. In 2020, all the criminal charges they brought us by fake is finished. It's 5 years is spanned by the law. It's stated in the court, the fake cases they create. We can speak about it openly. We served, we gave life to 2 carpets, I called it, when I met the children. Last time I saw them, they were making pizza with their father in the kitchen. The same with others. Having a knowledge to serve humanity became a criminality. Only to the eye of the state of Belgium. To that bloodline of the man, which is on the edge of the continent. The dirtiest of the dirt has been put to the edge to fall in the sea. So what do we see with it? Why supporting, understanding the soul of the mother sees the beauty of the children to be helped and sees the soul of the man who does it, and the man comes. Is that a miracle? And the children do move, do change, get a new life. This is not theory going to the court case. We can talk about the case is over, it's finished. The 5 years term is over in 2022. We open these cases. How man has the ability to support another life is his responsibility. It doesn't matter what it costs, even his life. With the knowledge of the plasma, with the knowledge of new understanding. I took all the ref, I took all the damage, I took everything. But seeing those 2 children being able to be with their father and the mother, not to be a carpet they put on and they take off, watching them putting a block of chocolate because they love chocolates. We used to put a block of chocolates in one side of the carpet and they go like a commando. We used to call them commandos to get to the chocolate. Those who never moved, couldn't move. This is a miracle of the technology and knowledge, but miracle of the soul. And this is how it's set. This is how we are supposed to be. This is how the whole technology has gone. We don't blame it. We have to elevate the soul of that nation, all of them, because we don't punish anymore. They have to understand their own misconduct, and the punishment for them is elevation of to understanding what they've done. And because of that, helping those 2, now we have set up an institute, Keshe Foundation Institute, structured as a scientific institute. We can show it. We'll spend time, we bring knowledge seekers, we bring doctors to see those called psychosis will be able to be helped from the outset, from the minute they're born and we see the sign. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers become responsible to that SOS in the hospital to help the family, not to wait for an earthquake because then it can be public event to help. The way you respond to corona, the knowledge seekers and the doctors we train have to be there. This is going to happen. It's not going to stop. The children get stuck in the passage of life, and by lack of oxygen, they go through it. The second is done. A knowledge seeker is called upon. Can you support? You have the answers, you have the technology, you deliver to the parents. Over 3 months, 6 months, you watch. And we won't have that mistake. We won't have the suffering of children and the parents for decades to come. This is our responsibility. They put us to prison. They gave us fraud, but the fraud is we save life. Doesn't matter what they take us with. And now we do it openly in the institute. In next few weeks, we appoint you. Once we set up the institute and you report there is such a child, we'll come to understanding to the institute with the doctors where you bring these children to the process. Nothing is done. It's just the process has to be done the correct way. The brain will replace itself. The damaged cells, because the child is in the time of the process of building, will be repaired. The structure damages to the stomach or the heart or whatever happens in that process will be repaired. We have a perfect child. And I said to people around us, we don't need 40, what we call parallel system, that 40 families to suffer for the rest of their lives to prove that the technology is correct. We support all of it. Let it be the process that benefit to the elevation of the soul of those who help. This is our responsibility. The blind testing, we leave 40 children you haven't helped to see how they become Sarkozy, and then we see how you're 40 done. Our children are not animals. Our children are not to be treated that way. We see the problem, it's our responsibility. The way we deliver the cup 1, cup 2 is to deliver to eradicate. If it's happened, the suffering of a lifetime, not letting 40 to become an example, and then another 1,000 to become an example for our stupid doctors and those who benefit by pharmaceutical to suffer for a lifetime. It's our responsibility to bring the change. I took it. I went through a lot of crucifixion. I went through everything wrong because I helped, and it's in the court cases, children who were totally supposed, totally. We have video of them. There are pictures of them. And the parents will say how the police of Belgium falsified all the documents. Then you understand. Then you will see, then in the future, when such a thing happens, do we need cancers? Or understanding the process of the elevation of the soul, we can elevate the soul at the point of birth that will support the soul of the children to correct and to repair. Would the children brought up, conceived in the dimension of the soul, and go through the physical process of the birth, and they come through this position of trapping in the birth tunnel, whatever happens, lack of oxygen, would they repair themselves immediately because the soul is in charge and not the soul of physicality? And the answer is yes. This is why we promote and we bring in a new knowledge of understanding creation of the children and soul of the man, because even if physicality, the creation of the soul of the man, will not have any defect, let alone in any other dimension. Man one day understands the gift we have brought. I stood exile, I stood assassination, I stood capturing, imprisoning in Canada in the airport, being told to be killed every day, standing assassination planned by my own partner, New, which Fabio got killed by accident because of it. And then when I look at it, it was all worth it to bring man to this position. To be able to share the knowledge that one parent can have children without the damage. One family can have without anything. bringing to be able to deliver the peace the way we've done, to be able to bring a lot of things, to be able to deliver the nations to be. If you remember, very recently, a few months ago, I told you, as a nuclear physicist, Iranian nuclear physicist, where we were all everything wrong, we'll be in the White House very soon. Because we share the knowledge. The White House is as much the capital of Iran as Tehran is to the Americans. We become one nation. We look at another position, another office. We don't promise, we deliver, and the promise completes itself. When I requested from the highest officers of American to fly these units into 3 destinations, the highest ranking officer was in tears. He said, Mr. Keshe, you think far beyond what we can imagine possible. Why are you giving the technology to America? Because I said the love of knowledge belongs to everyone. Now that we have reached peace, we can share knowledge. No, you did this to us for so many years, now we're going to do that. The time of punishment is there. It's time of share, serving is sin, and we have to be part of it. We have to set the example. And we have to understand there is no punishment. Elevate their soul. They'll come to understand their own mistakes.
Thank you very much, sir. I pray for your protection and thank you for your immense patience. I understand because every one of us in our very little imperfect measure suffers from what we call narcissist things. But I hope it helps us to be better. So thank you very much again for all these enlightening. And I wish you all the happiness in the world. Thank you again.
Can you give me 5 minutes, please, Rick?
Okay, sure, Mr. Keshe. Okay. Well, perhaps it would be a good time to take a 5-minute break and do what we call give from our soul to the peace in whichever part of the planet you want to dedicate that toward. It seems like we have been doing that for the 5+1 peace talks, and it seems to have worked in many ways. So we have some encouraging signs there. We have conflict in many parts of the world now, and people are some places there's war may break out, and others it's rebellion is breaking out. But we can help elevate all those conflicts just by giving from our soul. So maybe we can do that for a few minutes, and yeah, I'll leave on a picture of the spaceship unit here for 5 minutes, and we'll have 5 minutes of silence instead of promotional ads, and we can ponder our place in the world. Okay, we'll do that until Mr. Keshe comes back, perhaps. Okay, starting now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Keshe. We were just having a few minutes of silence here to give from our
Thank you very
souls
much.
world peace.
Thank you very much. The reason I had to accept this call was because, as I told you, one of the most loved ones of the Keshe Foundation went through a coma for past 2 weeks, and the call came from there, and we spoke. And weak physically, but at least the soul is back with us and the physicality. This wasn't about the peace talks. This was about one of us as recovered from a horrendous condition and nearly 2 weeks of coma. And it was beautiful to receive during the teaching. And I hope the soul will elevate. The soul will elevate to the point and the physicality will recover. I think this is one of the most beautiful news we could receive while we were talking about what we had and what we've been through. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. We've been waiting for this call for past 2 weeks, and we didn't know it will ever come. But we were told the recovery is taking place since last night, and at least we could talk to the person directly. Any other question?
Well, we have a couple of questions here. Just a second here, I'll get lined up. M. Vicken in the YouTube was wondering how it's going with Naomi with her recovery. Had 2 questions there, and that was one of them. Is there anything you can comment about that, Mr. Keshe?
Naomi, I met her last May, June with Giovanni at their house. And we have another piece of process to go to. Giovanni is helping to build the next cycle of cancers, and she should be more or less fully recovering, because somewhere in the process something was missed with whatever with other, and now we are building it back to complete that process. She's out of coma. I mean, she's normal as possible, but now we have to slightly change a couple of things to complete the the process. With all the things happened to us and the Italian factor and everything, it created a separation. We couldn't see exactly what was not completed. Now we know what wasn't completed, and it's getting done. Giovanni is working on it. We're there, and hopefully in the next few months we'll see. She'll become a normal. She's as normal, happy person we see. I spent a few hours with her last year when I was in Italy, and she's good, and she's as cheerful as she used to be. And we need just to fix a few little bits, and we hopefully get her back in what we call the proper ways to be done. The process was stopped due to all the things which went on, and we didn't have time. We never considered to check that part. Now we're done. We know what it is, and we can be corrected very easily. But it needs a special structure, and Giovanni is doing it. She's a gorgeous woman. She's absolutely a beautiful soul. And when you still see her, you enjoy that cheekiness which she always had.
Okay, well, thank you for that update. There was a further question from M. Vilken. Can we call the first fleet of spaceships Fabio Fleet, or put his name on something big from the foundation?
We already know. We already know what we're going to do and what we're going to be done with Fabio. Fabio is the soul of the Fabio mono physicality of it. And He is unique. I work with him literally on a daily basis. He was part of us. He was everywhere. You go to the receptions, there you go, to teachers, there you go. When, to me, when you speak about Fabio, it's like another son. It's not a knowledge seeker. It is not somebody you work with. With him, everything was unconditional. And with him, the love of doing things was done without asking. He translated the 3 books to Italian without anybody knowing. It's been translated. We have it. The Italians keep on telling us we want to translate the book. It's already been done by Fabio. We keep it because it's his work. And it's there is a lot of emotion when it comes to it. But this emotion has got worse since we know from the Italian securities and other securities that it was pre-planned. People who lived with us knew about it. It was planned for my assassination. This is the hardest part. I would have preferred for me to die than him. But it's the time of destiny and what is set to come. What we know, what the Italian national security knows, and I have explained that in the report of the National Security's International Police, is amazing how people who shared life with us knew how they were going to be assassinated and how ended up with a life of life. And many times I brought it up very much like when the lamb was given to be sacrificed instead of the son. And this should not happen. Italian national security has spent a lot of time on this assassination. And it's so clear, this assassination. Will open the truth about 3 assassinations and my imprisonment in Canada. Then you understand none of it is coincidental and could not be. 3 assassination was well planned and knew from inside it's happening. And it was supported in a very devious way. Fabio's life should not have been that. But it brought a change in the foundation work, and maybe his soul served that way. It is so clear to the Italian security because they reconstructed the accident that it's been such a clear sabotage, blocking road, walking to Fabio, hammering him on the head, hammering what do you call Naomi. And it is unbelievable. There's nothing hidden. We keep the file of Naomi open through international channels a little bit, and he is part of us. Fabio's body is found meters away from the car. It has only one hammer on the back of the head. If the body is thrown, there'll be damages, rashes to the skin. It's not there. Naomi was on the passenger seat, has moved to the driver's seat, and hammer comes on the side of where Fabio was. So somebody moved into the car and hammered it. And it's very clear it's been reconstructed by the Italian police in detail because they were responsible for my security and they do not know how security lapses happen and they see it as their job. And strange enough, there were only 2 passengers in my car, me and my son, which always used to be 3. Somebody knew. And this has happened in 3 occasions of my assassination. Bobby will be remembered for the changes and the love he brought to the family. And his life cut short by people who knew planned it. It wasn't nice. We're all sure I spoke in depth with Interpol, I spoke in depth with Italian national security, I've spoken with people in Pentagon. We have reconstructed it. We went back to working with knowledge seekers in Keshe Foundation, reconstructing. We asked so Sandor to look in at other angles of the reconstruction. We went through that side, we monitored everything. It's impossible to be 20 meters or so away from a car which has been hit at a high accident and just have a damage in the back of the head and being face down with no scratches to the face or the body as such, except the fall. The enemies of the Keshe Foundation lived within the Keshe Foundation. And they reported every movement of us. This is a problem when you're in Belgium, connected to Belgium. You serve your masters. Beta files serve beta files because they're all part of the same. Sorry about that. Whenever you bring up the talk of Fabio, it brings home a lot of pain. I watched the suffering of the mother and the father, and watched the suffering of Naomi, Giovanni, and his wife, and his sister, her sister. And it's painful. That son could be my son in the same car, and it was planned by the Belgians who knew it and made sure they were not there when it happens. A lot of you don't know what I suffer with, but one day we'll open the doors.
Mr. Keshe, Nick in the live stream has a question about that. when people do you wrong or try to ruin you, as they did to the Keshe Foundation, and Mr. Keshe, what prayer or what do you do to elevate their soul? Thank you.
We give, is the soul who has to receive it to be elevated. That's the beauty of it. You got to understand. Dirk went to court and gave false evidence. I helped him. He was paralyzed with his stroke, with a stroke from the poison he gave me. And he damaged himself. I still helped him with recovery. And he went to court and gave the false evidence. And he took a $1 penalty to me, because he was always that way. He says, when you get $1 from somebody, it's there. That's all. It doesn't matter. It's just getting that $1. He was so crooked. And what happened to him? When we helped, when exactly this week is 2 weeks when the Corona business started, and we supported the Corona with One Cup, One Life with the Chinese, he wrote an article that we started the Corona in China. And amazing enough, next few weeks, he died of Corona infection. He was one of the first people in Belgium died of Corona infection. And always said we gave everything to him. And he stole everything for the, what do you call it? The king, whoever they served. He was another insider working outside. And we elevated, we always elevate their soul, but then they find their position. What he accused of the foundation this time was so grave that he would not come back to the foundation to ask for help to use the One Cup, One Life. And his daughter wrote to me in public that they knew that technology could have helped, but he wouldn't come because he knew he lied. He couldn't lie, use the technology again where he lied about it himself. Our job is just to support. In time, they've been enlightened. He did enough damage, but actually brought a lot of things around it that does not bother us, because the foundation is growing so big, and with their misconduct, we become bigger. More people read, a few people will believe, but our job is just to elevate their soul. Even in their misconduct, they think they're right. That's part of the elevation of the soul. It's not for us to judge. When we found out that the assassination was planned of Fabio in Antwerp, we have all the documentation of movement. It was planned in Antwerp. He was, the gentleman who planned it was a person from Eastern Europe, from the same city and the place where the drivers have come from. The two drivers, a special driver who's now accused of us the killing of Fabio, comes from the same structure, mafia group. And they met with Dirk. We have a lot of information available. You do not know how much we know. And the same gentleman is another problem somewhere else. He paid for the death of Fabio. His soul was elevated to understand what was done. He frequently traveled between his country and Antwerp prior to assassination and stopped after. He's a gangster. He was paid to kill. And he comes from the same area as the driver. Albania. We know a lot. In time is for the Italian securities to open this file. From point of poverty and nothing, after Iran assassination, he started buying latest model cars and everything else. Because he was paid to. We know too much. And we pray for them. We elevate their soul because the soul has to bring them to the point of understanding. You know that. We are not in their brain to find out what they're. They have to judge it themselves. This week is exactly a year and a half. I have not seen my son. I don't know if he's alive or by the way. In what condition he is in. Again, in the hand of the same Peter Piles and the same. My son is no different than Fabio. We consider it as a son. And it's the same criminals have the same behavior. Doesn't matter whose sons you take, it's all the same. It's our job. Any other question?
From Paulo in the YouTube, Mr. Keshe, would making a reactor as much as a magravs be like saying a prayer to God for peace, since they organize the fields of emotion in the environment?
Partially, in a way, you can participate if you know how to use it, yes. Magrav units in a coming time will explain what we'll do. A few knowledge seekers broke into it and they lost it and they came back to it and they don't understand it. But in the Magrav system, if it's set up in a specific condition and position, has the same as the soul of the man and the physicality of the man. The soul of physicality of the man. We created that box, but we have no control over the field. Unfortunately, today I don't have my iPad with me because of the problem in transmission. If you look at the structure of the magravs, the coil, and then look at the structure of the top coil, top cup, and the coils in the cup of man, the 5 stacker. What do you see? What haven't you learned? Isn't it all coiled? Isn't it no straight wires? Isn't this what you have in the maglev system? Haven't you seen you work in the dimension of the fields of the free space? In the cup of man, in top cup, you create the multitude of fields, but in salt water. The maglev is open in the salt water of the universe, in the free field of the universe. And none of you have understood. You looked at it as something to give you power, but I gave you the knowledge of the soul of the creation. That's why I keep on telling you, you're going for crumbs and you're happy with it. Just look at the construction of the couple man, the 5 stacker set. Wherever we brought in the soul of operation, we use the coils. Look at your maglev system. Is it anything but coils? Because it creates a combination of the fields, covers the totality of the fields. From the fields of the soul of the solid to the man and above. but you haven't understood yet. You just play around and you just love to be around. In so many ways, you have everything within the cups. But you still look at the salt water and you look at the totality. And then you understand the creation of what is needed. Then look at how we use the energy of the space, where in the cups you use confined energy of the water. Then you understand there is a lot is there that you haven't understood, and you're still after creating some energy. If knowledge seekers to understand that how the magnet systems work and create understanding of the process of the positioning of the magnets, you will achieve a lot. But you're not there, you're just happy to save 80%, 90%, where you got to understand the energy absorbed, deposited, and put in to the magnets can feed the universe. And if you had 9 or 10 turns and you get it by order of magnitude in your cups of life, and in the top cup you only work with non-physicality, then just do a small calculation. You have 6 double rings, each one between 40 and 60 or 70 coils on each, interfering, interacting, and operating within each other. I have given you access to universal energy and you're still not aware of it. You're still looking for the crumbs. Maghreb system does not give me 40, gives me 30. Maghreb system gives you the knowledge and the energy of the universe. You don't know how to tap it. We have a beautiful say in Farsi. In Farsi we say, "Gorbe dastش به گوش نمیرسه میگه گوش نخه." He says the cat cannot get to the meat which is hanging. He says there's something wrong with the meat. You cannot understand what you're being given as a knowledge in Maghrebs. You say everything is wrong with it. When the knowledge seekers who break through this knowledge understand it, they realize how feeble knowledge seekers of today have been, those who haven't understood. And it's simple. I cannot put it any other way. If you put the stacker unit in cup of man, we put there, you see we create the soul of the man on the top with the, is it 8, 9, some people do 10 turns individually. Multiply, let's say 3 by 17 outer core. If you've done it that way, that's 210 turns. And then you have another, the same inside that, that's 420 turns. And then you have the inner core, you know, let's say 40, not let's say 50, that's 150. plus another 150, which is inner core, that's let's say 700. That is 10 to the power of 700 combination string. Not 10 to 700, which is 10 with 700 zero combination plus their interaction, which is another God knows what zeros combination. And you say the magnets don't work. I gave you the secret of creation, and you're happy with 1 watt to 10 watts. And then on top of that, there are more possibilities of combination. Now you use just nano-coated. What about if you put an alloy instead of just the copper, or put gases of different materials on top of it and then multiply the zeros by 3, by 4, by 5. And then you feel the forces of the magnet across the universe, let alone where you sit. But you don't have the knowledge how to use it. You've been too greedy for that. I realized that in the first teachings of the second day of the blueprint of the magnets. I said these people, the questions which was coming and how to do, these people are just too much greedy after the energy, so let them have it. We build the magnet units in the enhancement units, but we use in dimension of the soul, not dimension of physicality. But we still in dimension of physicality, we have to feed the lower string. One day, the closest person I've seen getting to understanding small steps of it is Alex in Nigeria. He has such a beautiful soul and he understands clearly the beginning steps, but he cannot follow it through. Every time he's done, he gets too excited, he diverts in another angle, and I just watch. He has the most beautiful soul of knowledge seekers. The same with Armand, the same with John. These are all gave bits into it, but you lost the foundation, the principle. And now you're busy with the gases and the other parts. It's just next step up in knowledge. Alex was the only one up to now who's managed to understand to mix both the soul and the physicality, but he just keeps on getting trapped in the physicalities. If you listen to teachings of Alex, it's amazing how much knowledge he disperses, how much knowledge in depth, but nobody understands. We understand because we've been there. When I listen to his teachings, it's just nothing but sharing the knowledge of greed. We have another guy in China, the same. He understood far beyond anybody else. And you're still busy with energies. If you look at the fields, you achieve things that your magnets become magic box for a lot of people who don't understand the interaction of fields. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. You want to call it here? Is that what you're about to say? Let me read you one more.
Hello.
Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yeah, I lost you in bits.
Okay. I think you probably want to wrap things up, but let me read you one other thing that Paulo put in the chat here earlier, and see what your opinion is about this, so you get some feedback. It says, Mr. Keshe, recognizing that we have a lot to do as knowledge seekers, but we also see transformations in our time with their initiatives, which seem to make it necessary to carry out historical transcripts and synthesis, etc. Therefore, the best means for this purpose perhaps would be through its bibliography. What do you think about forming a group of knowledge seekers for this purpose, even if we don't have the permission to publish? Such materials may serve in the future the historian that you and or your successor hire. If you agree, could we start with your genealogy?
We are not creating another icon. We are part of the structure of the humanity and shall stay that way. The knowledge can be done. The private life and the structure of what we do and we live will stay private. Because then it becomes another cycle of what have we sown many things in the past. We are not creating another, what do you call it, a cycle. We have a life the same as other human and leave that as it is. Creating these kind of things diverts from the essential understanding of the knowledge of the Creator. See if you can do the genealogy on the Creator. That'll be a good place to start. And then maybe with servants. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you indeed. We'll come back next week, and I thank again the Universal Council and knowledge seekers who helped and supported. And we had to receive the most beautiful news for past 2 weeks, which brought us a lot of pain from the person which we were so much loved and cared for as knowledge seekers. And it's back with us, and we have to receive the call during the teachings, which is amazing. And I thank you all, and we're all here to serve in one way or another. Thank you very much. And maybe a little bit late by next teaching, but we give our warmest, the richest, most, what I call prosperous year for our Chinese knowledge seekers for the new year, which comes between now and the next week. We wish you the most beautiful new year. And we respect you and we honor your nation and your culture. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Keshe, for another Knowledge Seekers workshop here. A lot of information in this one and a lot of emotion as well. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's 417th Knowledge Seekers workshop on Thursday, January 27th, 2022. We have a couple things coming up. We have Sunday is the North America Corona team meeting, and Alex Skorik teaches in that, and that is a favorite with people. You can check that out through the Telegram groups. On Monday, we have Gianni has a special teaching. He's doing teaching every Monday for the next 16 weeks, I believe. There's 4 modules and 4 weeks each. And it's quite interesting about the first module is called What is Plasma? And these will be in Spanish with English translation. And see, they're available. I think I had it up here. There's a Zoom link that you can enter the live class in, and I'll put that link in the chat here. And that's at Monday at, what's the time? I did have the time somewhere here, but I don't have that in front of me. Let me see, where can I find that? Can anybody supply that? And if someone can remind me of the time and jot that in the chat while the final video is playing, then that'd be great. There we go. Thanks, Jalal and Kay. So it's 9 p.m. CET on Monday for those new classes with Johnny. Okay, and of course, on Tuesday coming up next week, we have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace. And I think we're up to 207 of those workshops now, and that's with the Universal Council. So people are invited to bring questions and problems that can have a solution from the soul-based group of the Universal Council. Stefania mentions next Wednesday is 2nd of February. There's going to be an interview with Mr. Keshe in the Italian radio. There'll be details and times of that given out sometime soon with the various medias. Okay, I'm going to play my favorite video here to go out with. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit musical version. And I wish you all a good week. And may we all give from our soul to world peace as much as we are willing and able. Okay, bye everyone. See you in the next public workshop.